You know, how to just say to the lady, you know, I'm in charge of this, and there are legal things. There are legal things I have to do. You know, if you want to come dressed as whatever, but you have to say these words in a church because these are the legal aspects of it. And they go, oh, I just wanted to do my own vows. We can add those, but these are the ones you
Yeah.
must say. So,
And have you ever had to step in and stop a fight, shall we say, at a wedding?
oh, oh yes, yes. No, we've had some. We've had, yeah, we've had a few drunken incidents, and again, I've just been able to use my policeman's voice, step in. I say, having worked in the police, teaches you how to do crowd control, to deal with people, and you know, I had a wedding when I was in East London, when I was working on the Olympic Park. They gave me a church to run as well, and I had a whole group of guys who came in and thought it would be fun to sit on the back of the pew, which is the seating, the long seats for those who don't know. Sit on that with their feet on the seats and their bums on the headrest, and were most shocked when I went down and explained to them that that was just not going to happen. But they did as they were told. You know, and I've had to throw people. I've had to throw drunks out before now. I've been assaulted by drunks at church, and I've had to throw them out. Not that they weren't welcome, George. I did say to them, "You're quite welcome, but you've got to sit and be quiet, and you're not sitting there drinking beer in the church." And they thought that they would test it and go for it, and you know, I don't know that I could be able to do it much longer as I'm approaching 70, and the frailties of age are coming on. But it's protecting the rest of the congregation as well.
Of course, you weren't very religious to start with, you said,
No,
but your wife was. She went to church quite often.
Yeah, yeah.
You think it was her influence who got you towards or just the love?
No, well, her influence was that I didn't have to go. I didn't have to go. I said, I'm not going to church. And she said, okay, fine. And she went occasionally. But she went to the church women's group for the young mothers. Because, I mean, we're both nearly 70 now. But she was a young mother at that time. So that was her contact. And the children went to a church school. And I just nominally said to the vicar who had to sign the form, you don't really want me coming here. I said, I'll be quite disruptive. He said, I'll just sign it. I think because I'm big, I think he looked at me and went, I better sign this.
So anyway, you agreed to go to this sort of conference with your wife.
Yeah.
Hugh Palmer.
Hugh Palmer was one of the big evangelists. He had a church right next to the BBC, All Souls, Langham Place,
right?
The BBC in middle of London, and I know that because we used to go there Sunday evenings from the church in East London, but I didn't know that at the time. Never heard of the guy, but I just went to the conference because it was my wife said we can go to the conference, church conference. She said you don't have to do anything. I said I'm not going to. I was reading a book and I was in the bar. That was what I did. And then I say this Sunday morning, oh my goodness me, you know, I sat and had breakfast with these two guys that were chatting to me, John and Alan, as they were called, and literally, it was just the surrealness of it, actually, George, of standing up, and I thought we were walking out of the restaurant area, and we were walking down the corridor to the conference room, and then I say, it was like, I can't get out of here. When you
feel trapped? Did you feel trapped?
I did, and I thought, well, I'm not standing here. There were 300 people coming in, and they'd filled the corridor, you know, and I thought I'd have to press. Oh, I'll just sit down, and that's what I did. I just sat down at the end of the aisle, and life changed from there.
I like that, but your Damascus moment was very simple, actually.
Yeah,
Very simple.
It was, and every time I look back on it, when I've had crisis in church, in faith, and I think, did I make that up? And I know I didn't, but you have to ask the question, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah, you would.
Did I make that up? Right, I didn't need to make it up. It happened. It was that incredible. And people say, "What does Jesus look like?" He's very bright. He was very bright, and I knew it was him. It was that sort of, and when he put his hand on my shoulder and literally dragged all of that anger and anxiety and the old me out of my own body, and I felt so at peace.
Excellent. So what changed in your life then? What were the changes that happened in your life from there?
Well, from there, what happened? I just felt better. I started going to church, and then these policemen that were there already and had been undercover Christians, because they didn't want us to tell anybody, and they went, "Oh, well, what are you doing here?" I said, I've met Jesus, so it's real." And they went, okay, just don't tell anybody at the Nick that you met us.
I like that expression, actually, undercover Christians. Do you think a lot of people are undercover Christians?
Absolutely. There's one of the things I preach on very, very regularly. That we need to be. It's easy for me because I've got a bit of white in a shirt, and my wife and I have just been on a cruise, and we were sitting at dinner tables in the evening, and people would go, "Oh, so what do you do?" And my wife would say, "Well, she's an author now." Right? She said, "Well, I'm an author and I write books." And they look and they go, "Well, what do you do?" And I say, "Well, I'm a priest in the Church of England. I'm a vicar." And they all go, You don't look like a vicar." Because I've got tattoos all up there, just you don't look like a vicar. And I thought, well, what's a vicar supposed to look like? But it's telling people, it's being able to do it. When I was working on the Olympic Park, I was the chaplain, and while the build was still going on, there were 4 surveyors standing on a mound of soil for where the Olympic Park was actually built. And I wandered over to them wearing my big yellow jacket and my safety helmet and my dog collar and a big word chaplain on the jacket. And one of the guys started being quite abusive with bad language, saying, "Oh, here comes the expletive.
Yeah.
Vicar, what does the expletive want?" And the guy standing next to him said, "Oh, don't talk about the vicar like that. That's quite rude." So this first one says, What's the matter with you then? Are you one of those God botherers? and this fellow went, "Well, yeah, because I'm now on top. I'm now there." He goes, "Well, yeah, I go to church." And he went, "Oh." And then the bloke next to this man says, "What, you go to church?" And he went, embarrassed. He said, "Well, yeah." So this third guy went, "Oh, I go to church as well." And then the fourth man looked at the pair of them and he went, "You both go to church?" And they went, "Yeah." And he said, "I go to church as well." The 3 of them had been working together for nearly 2 years on the Olympic Park construction.
And didn't even know.
No. But after that, again, praise God, I found an empty office in one of the Olympic offices, and we set up a prayer meeting on Tuesdays at 4:00. And it started with 4 of us. And by the time we'd finished, after about 6 or 7 weeks, we had to move into a bigger office that we went up to about 30 or 40 people from the Olympic offices would come in and we would all pray together. But nobody knew that the other was a Christian.
Praise God. Now, before I came on, I was just thinking about this. We all watched Jane Austen and Pride and Prejudice, and the vicar, of course, has a very prominent position in these. Now, do you think today that the vicar or the church has the same prominence as it had in those days, or the same authority, shall we say?
Same authority. Oh, well, I would hope not, because the authority that they had was the authority of the person. The person assumed the authority, which could make them a bully, could make them very self-righteous, could make them dictatorial. And I have met, I do clergy mentoring, and I have met clergy that have been like that even now. I'd like to say my own form of ministry is quite laid back, and it's to encourage other people to find their faith, to find out what they can do for the mission of Christ. But my assurance the whole way through, George, is every time that it's all real, but it's not my authority, it's not my mission, it's not me. I have to take responsibility for the church, I take responsibility for the parishioners, but it's not me being the dictator that says, people have to leap, and not even my own children didn't do what I told them to do. So how am I going to expect? How am I going to expect other people to do it? But the period that Jane Austen was writing about was very much authoritative church. Even in some of my wife's books, the best characters that she's got during the Second World War were the clergy, who trying to still keep things going as it was pre-war, without adjusting to the fact that life had changed. So I think we've moved on from that.
So for somebody watching tonight, okay, or maybe at a later stage, and they want to know God, how would you say they could go about it?
The first thing to do is just to pray. Just to pray. And people go, oh, I can't pray. Well, then just have a conversation. Right? You don't assume that because you can't close your eyes and put your hands together, you can't talk to God, that you can't talk to Christ, because they're there waiting for you. And then from that, find a place that you can go and learn more. And that would invariably be some church of some sort. But find the one that suits you. And when I say that, it's finding the one that, well, you'll know it. You'll know it. There'll be that feeling inside you that says, I've come to the right place. And just remember, even when it's getting difficult, it is real. It is real. And I keep saying that because, I doubt whether I would be a Christian, a follower of Christ in any level, if I hadn't actually met him, because I'm the sort of guy that works on evidence. And even if I turned around and nominally said, "Oh, I believe," I think I would have found an excuse not to. So just, the older I get, the more I realise that God had a plan, and my part is to tell you it's true.
So if you were going to school today and somebody said to you, you can be either in the paratroopers, the police, or a priest, which would you choose?
Well, I was at school.
Yeah, if you had that question today, for instance.
I would have gone off to join the army because it got me away from home.
Excellent. Now, what are your any plans for the future? You said you're nearly 70. Are you heading for retirement, or
plans for the future? There's an interesting thing that some cruise lines. My wife gives lectures on cruise ships as part of a contract that my wife's not only an author, but she gives cruise ship talks. So I've been with a few of her, and on the American ships, I've actually done church services. And how amazing is it to be able to give a church service just off Greenland?
Yeah.
And have 100 people turn up. But there are cruise lines that have padres on board for Christmas and Easter. So, maybe I'll look at doing that. There's the Diocese of Europe, which has locum priests that I've done some work for in the past. And the locum goes out and covers a church that might have a short vacancy, waiting for a new priest. I did, when I retired in 2005, I went to Zermatt in Switzerland with Intercontinental Church Society, and I did 4 months working at Zermatt in St. Peter's Church there, which is the most expensive place I've ever lived.
Wow.
It really is. This is Switzerland. So that's that kind of thing. But I think I just need to sit down and have a rest for a while.
Yes, even Jesus went to sleep. He had a rest, didn't he?
Oh, it's. I'm going to write that down and tell my wife when I've dozed off in the afternoon.
Yes, I think it's the curse of getting older, where you sit down after your dinner and you fall asleep straight away.
Yeah.
Now, Kelvin, you've made many decisions in your life. Some very good ones and some few bad ones.
Yeah.
But of those decisions, what was the best decision you ever made?
Telling my wife that we were getting married, because from there, everything else flowed. The children, I know Janet, our daughter, had cancer, but I wouldn't have had my daughter Janet if I hadn't been married to Jean, and then that all led to where we are now. So that partnership, that friendship, and that was the best decision. No, she's not listening, so I can't say
it. She might hold you to your word. Just tell us, how's Janet doing today?
Janet is now 44. She had a bone marrow transplant when she was 18, which was amazing, absolutely amazing. God was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, because it's very difficult to get a bone marrow match, and we prayed, and Janet had 100% match.
Wow.
For her bone marrow. In fact, the consultant. So the consultant said to me, he said, "Do you have children that you don't know that you've got?" It's that kind. No, I haven't got any children. No, I've been very careful in my life, and it turned out to be 100% match. And Janet was basically cured of that leukemia. She has had a couple of cancers since, but that's all down to the chemotherapy that she received as a child. She got huge dose. Now they focus on the actual cancer, but then it was a kill-all solution.
I see.
But she's got 3 teenage children.
Wow.
Eldest one's at university. Her husband works for the police. Janet is disabled due to bone density problems due to the chemo. But she's very positive, and her faith is so strong, and she is the family hero. In point of fact, what happened was after Janet had cancer when she was little, my wife decided that she was going to become a nurse so that she could help people.
Excellent.
And went on to lecture in nursing, became a district nurse, then lectured in nursing at London South Bank University. Middle daughter, she's now head of nursing departments in Eastbourne, and the youngest daughter, she followed me into the police.
Wow, like father, like daughter.
Oh,
well, Kelvin,
yeah,
it's been fantastic speaking. I think you're the only second vicar I've spoken to. But yeah, it's been lovely speaking to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us here at Life Stories Worldwide and telling us your story.
Thanks for inviting me.
And I'm just going to bring Alan back in.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Kelvin, for sharing, answering those questions so clearly. It's been great having you with us. And all of you have been with us today. We thank you for joining us for this program. I would encourage you to join us again next week at 8 o'clock UK time for another life story from Life Stories Worldwide. Next week, we have a man called Isaac Chuma Kingston. He was formerly from eastern Nigeria, He's now a pharmacist in the UK. He'll be sharing his story next week. Also, can I encourage you to go to our YouTube channel, Life Stories Worldwide. There you can find all the other stories from previous Mondays, many, many wonderful stories. And also, would you encourage you to click on the subscribe button and the like button and tell your friends about these life stories that they can watch on a Monday evening. You can also go to our website, lifestoriesworldwide.com, and there you'll find lots of information. So thank you for being with us. May God bless you. May you know the peace of God that passes all human understanding, and may the joy of Jesus fill your hearts. Bye, everyone.